Coming up on this Jerusalem Dateline, another earthquake in southwest Turkey. How CBN's Operation Blessing is providing vital help to the already devastated area. Plus, the U.S. pledges continued support for Ukraine in its war with Russia, while Ukraine warns it's running out of men and weapons. And how physically challenged people can finally experience Israel's hard-to-reach places thanks to an innovative ministry. All this and more coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. Another major earthquake rocked Turkey and Syria Monday night. The 6.3 quake killed at least 3 people and injured more than 200. This came just 2 weeks after 2 devastating earthquakes hit the region, leaving thousands of buildings in ruins and millions of people horrified. The 6.3 quake hit the city of Hatay, already one of Turkey's hardest hit areas. Many buildings, weakened by the previous earthquakes and aftershocks, crumbled. CBN's Operation Blessing International Relief Director Diego Traverso filed this report moments after it struck.
It felt really strong and everything collapsed again. The electricity, everyone just went out. We're right here on the street, serving the people that is coming here. We're distributing solar lamps. We're start with a medical clinic right on the spot so we can serve the people here that is under so much distress. Also some meals. We're making some hot soup right now on the spot, distributing blankets. It got really cold right now again.
The city of Hatay is also known as Antioch, that played a prominent role in the life of the Apostle Paul and served as a foundation of the early church. CBN News visited the city just days ago. Behind me is the city of Antioch, devastated by the February 6th earthquake. In the New Testament, the book of Acts, chapter 11, it says that in Antioch, the followers of Jesus were first called Christians. Like many areas throughout this region, Antioch took an especially hard hit. You see scenes of devastation like this all over the earthquake zone. But this particular site is unique because this was the ministry of a local church serving their neighborhood for 23 years.
We're actually standing in front of a pastor and his wife's house. And these buildings are their very loved neighbors' buildings. There's no one left. So this precious pastor's family have lost their neighbors that they've been serving, sharing the love of Jesus for many, many years. And they're now all gone.
Pastor Ilmaz told CBN News about that terrifying night.
I just can't find the words to describe it, and I don't think you can really understand what happened at that time. There was a deep noise from the ground and it wasn't ending, and it was a long time. Both my husband and I just looked at each other and hugged each other, and we started praying.
Within moments, they rushed outside.
And then when we came out, and completely outside, and I looked and I realized that all these buildings were collapsed. And that was so painful because this has been our ministry to our neighbors.
For years, she ministered to about 50 neighborhood children, teaching them the Bible.
They know me as their Aunt Elmas, sometimes Mother Elmas, because we've been having them at church and playing games, sharing the gospel for many, many years. They grew up in our own hands, so to speak. And now they are all gone. I've lost all of them. Some of them died, and some of them are just spread around the country or need medical help, and they can't live here anymore, or they have moved to other cities, and I've lost them all.
Pastor Ilmaz's church was destroyed too. We're on the streets of Old Antioch right now. Many of the streets are unpassable because of the rubble, and the church that lasted for 23 years is down this alleyway, but we can't get to it because of all the debris. The only thing we see right now is the sign.
Nothing is left, and this has been our church for 23 years. All those years of love and caring for everyone. Everything is gone completely.
Still, Pastor Ilmaz has a positive outlook.
There's no more Antioch left, but there will be a new Antioch. There will be a new church, and God has already given us the building for that. So that will be the new church, and there's no damage on that church.
For millions of Turkish people, life will never be the same after the massive earthquakes and dozens of aftershocks that hit their country. We sat down with one family to see how the disaster affected them. Take a look. Behind me is one of the scenes the world has been watching since February 6th when the earthquake struck. This is the city of Kahramanmaraş, one of the worst hit cities in the region. And for nearly 300 miles, the earthquake zone has left behind a trail of ruined buildings and changed lives. Families like the Dukaklis, about 200 miles away in the city of Hatay. The lives of so many of these Turkish families are marked by before and after the earthquake. And we sat down with Phyllis and her family in this temporary tent to hear their story.
Well, before the earthquake, I had my own business. I was making bread and pastry. Well, everything was going very well. But now, unfortunately, after the earthquake, I have no job and my workplace was destroyed. But right now, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to go back to my bakery anymore.
Phyllis made all sorts of Turkish baked goods, but the earthquake and its aftermath took its toll on her livelihood, her family, and the children.
Our fear was too great. I don't know when my children's psychology will improve because, unfortunately, we even had to remove the corpses. Even my uncle's markets were destroyed. We had to remove the bodies ourselves. Things are very bad.
The family now lives in this tent.
We are staying here. In other words, we are afraid that we cannot go home because the aftershocks continue. Children need education. Yes, that is my biggest concern. I don't know what will happen to the education of the children.
After the quake, Operation Blessing came to help. They visited the family, provided food, and examined the grandfather suffering from post-traumatic shock.
Blessing upon blessing comes to us. We're always waiting for you. You supported us. Thank you very much. Many thanks to those who did this. We're so proud. We got emotional. It made us even more happy.
Also, thank you for coming and making us feel welcome. It is nice. We felt that we were not alone. God bless you.
For Phyllis, her goal is to bake again.
I hope to continue my work elsewhere, and I will invite you there. There will be treats from me. I make tandoori bread. If we get a chance, we are proud to present it to you.
On this day, the OB team came as friends and left as family. That was a wonderful family to spend some time with. Well, turning now to Iran, where UN inspectors say they've discovered uranium enriched to 84% purity, the highest ever detected in the country. The concerning report brings Iran just shy of what's needed for a nuclear bomb. Until now, Iran has been known to enrich uranium to 60%. A purity of 90% is needed to make a nuclear weapon. According to Bloomberg, inspectors need to verify if Iran intentionally produced the material or if the concentration was the unintended result of buildup in the centrifuges. Iran denies the reports and says its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes. Syria is blaming Israel for an airstrike on its capital city early Sunday that killed at least 5 people and wounded 15. According to a UK-based watchdog group, the strikes hit targets connected to Iranian militias and the Iranian-backed terror group Hezbollah. Syrian state media reports their homes were also destroyed in the attack. Israel rarely ever acknowledges reports of its activities in Syria, but is said to have carried out hundreds of strikes in Syria over the years to stop Iran from transferring weapons to its proxies in the region. Coming up, the U.S. continues to stand with Ukraine and urges European allies to do the same. President Joe Biden is in Ukraine and Poland this week as a show of solidarity just days before the one-year anniversary of the Russian invasion. CBN's Dale Hurd has more.
Biden arrived at Ukraine's Marlinsky Palace to announce an additional $500 million in U.S. assistance and pledged continued American support.
1 year later, Kyiv stands, and Ukraine stands. Democracy stands. The Americans stand with you, and the world stands with you.
While Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been an unmitigated military disaster with as many as 180,000 casualties, Ukraine warns that it is running out of both men and materiel as Russia begins another offensive. Now, some U.S. officials want the administration to train Ukrainians to fly F-16 fighters so it can send the warplanes to help in the fight against Russia. United States UN Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield sounding as if it was not a matter of if the U.S. sends the jets, but how.
We have to ensure, and I think Secretary Blinken said this as well, that they have the training necessary and the capacity to use weapon systems that we provide to them.
The chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee told CNN he hopes the U.S. sends the fighter jets.
The fact is, the longer they wait, the longer this conflict will prevail. We need to throw everything we can into this fight so that they can win.
Meanwhile, Secretary of State Blinken warns that China is considering sending weapons to Russia and warned Chinese Foreign Affairs official Wang Yi in Munich this weekend that such a move would have grave consequences.
It was important for me to share very clearly with Wang Yi that this would be a serious problem.
The White House has accused Russia of crimes against humanity in its war against Ukraine. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says the U.S. should go further and designate Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism.
Because if you do that under U.S. law and China provides lethal weapons, they will get sanctioned. And to the Chinese, if you jump on the Putin train now, you're dumber than dirt. It would be like buying a ticket on the Titanic after you saw the movie. Don't do this.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Up next, the U.S. cracks down on what could be a new method of surveillance by China and how some American consumers are unwitting participants. Thank you for watching Jerusalem Dateline. We're committed to providing you with unbiased reporting from the Holy Land. Through weekly broadcasts, podcasts, and online media, our vision is to reach millions around the globe with the true story of what's happening in Israel and the Middle East, all from a biblical and prophetic perspective. This is a big vision and is only made possible by the generous support of people like you.
Call us toll-free at 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/Jerusalem Dateline and make a donation that will help spread the light of truth about Israel throughout the world.
Concern is growing over potential Chinese spies in the sky over the U.S., but the focus isn't on a balloon. It's over drones. CBN's Matt Galka brings us these look at possible threats buzzing around restricted airspace over Washington, D.C.
Recreational drones have been creating a growing buzz for years. The ability to provide stunning views and unique perspectives has driven the drone market to $1 billion industry in the United States. This soaring popularity has also put these flying machines on Capitol Hill's radar, especially given tensions with China. The world's largest recreational drone maker is Chinese-owned company DJI, and alarm bells ring as drones keep popping up around Washington, D.C. Here's why.
If you look behind me, there is no Capitol, there are no monuments, there's no D.C., and that's because there's not supposed to be. Washington, D.C. has some of the strictest drone laws in the country, and at minimum, drones are supposed to be at least 15 miles away. That's why we're in Fairfax County, Virginia.
This FAA map shows the no-fly zones around the nation's capital. The red ring shows a strict no-fly zone covering a 15-mile radius around D.C. The outer ring allows for drone flights with altitude and other restrictions. Most drones come equipped with internal GPS that automatically limits the ability to fly in restricted areas. But that hasn't stopped increasing flybys. This report from Politico details classified briefings presented to Senate committees about hundreds of drones detected around the Capitol. Homeland Security warned last summer about the potential for foreign adversaries to hack drones for spying or cyber attacks.
What we know is that the threat posed by UAS is widespread across the country, and it is critical that our partners have the authority to help protect the homeland.
Homeland Security Committee member Senator Rick Scott attended that hearing.
Let's wake up. I mean, since I've been up here, I've been saying our federal government has got to stop buying Chinese-made drones. These are just can be used for surveillance, and they are, as far as we know. So Our government shouldn't be buying them. Our military shouldn't be buying them.
Senator Scott has introduced multiple bills to curb the use of foreign-made, specifically China-made, drones in government. The encounters in restricted airspace means someone hacked or manipulated the drones to bypass the geofencing. Whether malicious or not, it poses a problem.
And I think the way to think about it, what can you do? You can make sure you don't buy Chinese products. You don't use TikTok. You can make sure that you never buy a Chinese drone.
Regarding the restricted airspace encounters, DJI told Politico, quote, "Unfortunately, while DJI puts everything in place to identify and notify our customers about areas in which they can't fly, we can't control the end user's behavior." Fear over spying and data collection by China has only heightened in recent weeks. A new House Select Committee on China will now focus on threats and competition from the Asian superpower. More lawmakers want TikTok banned or to force the popular app to be sold to an American company due to potential spying threats. And the flyby and eventual takedown of a Chinese spy balloon after it sailed over America has only turned up the heat. South Dakota Congressman Dusty Johnson sits on the new China Select Committee.
So whether we're talking drone technology, whether we're talking wireless technology, whether we're talking apps that big tech is rolling out in coordination with CCP, we do need to be a lot more thoughtful, planful, and deliberate in how we deal with this threat. We know that China is a technological leader in drones, and they don't have to be, it's not just weather balloons that are spying on Americans. I suspect drones are doing a fair amount of the activity as well.
The good news in this divided Congress, a crackdown on the spying threat appears to have bipartisan support. California Democrat Ro Khanna also sits on the new Select Committee.
Do you feel like drones will come up also when we're talking about apps that the Chinese government may or may not have access to?
Absolutely. We need to, first of all, have our capability on drones, on AI, on satellite imaging, on quantum, really enhanced. And one of the challenges is that a lot of this is now commercial technology, not DoD technology, so we need to adopt that commercial technology better. But we also need to be careful about the commercial technology that China has.
At least part of the investments backing DJI come from the Chinese government. The links have led to multiple government agencies here, including the Pentagon and the Department of Defense, to ban buying the drones for their agencies, except in limited circumstances. But another potential problem, the drones are used by local law enforcement across the country, as the machines are increasingly used to help first responders. Matt Gelka, CBN News.
Up next, see how the door is opening wide to a group of people who've never been able to travel in Israel until now. For too many years, popular tourist sites in Israel have not been accessible to most disabled people. As Paul Strand explains, that's now changing.
Israel's many things to many people, but one thing it's not really is all that handicapped accessible. What with the rough ground, the slippery rocks, the big steep slopes everywhere. But there's a group right now working on making sure that the handicapped can go anywhere in this land that anyone else can. Dr. John Delancey leads tours combining Israel's archaeology, history, and the Bible. But he couldn't include tourgoers with physical disabilities.
We offer multiple Israel trips a year, but no accessibility for people who can't walk.
Then Delancey discovered Luke 5 Adventures, a ministry grown to 9 U.S. chapters that help those with disabilities experience the rugged outdoors using Jolette chairs like this one.
We just completed our 800th hike in the last 3 years.
CBN News hit the trail with them in Ohio in 2021, and more recently, Israel, as they partnered with Delancey's ministry.
I thought right away this was an answer to prayer. God orchestrated this. This opens the whole new door for really going anywhere.
Delancey and Luke 5 Adventures tested that idea in Israel with Victoria Odom. She's fought her way back from traumatic brain injury and total paralysis.
I've relearned step by step.
Though not enough to tackle certain terrain.
I can never walk on slippery rocks or climb up trails.
And for people like Victoria it's not even a dream to go from here over there because it's not possible. But what we're doing makes the impossible possible.
Whitney Blackston came along to help Odom since Blackston had witnessed how Luke 5 Adventures helped transform the life of her daughter, Emerson.
She's completely blind and hearing impaired, nonverbal.
On hikes in the Jolette,
Emerson came to know God's wonders in nature.
We could tell her what a tree is. She's blind. She really doesn't have a concept of what that is. But now she can get out there and feel the tree and actually feel the leaf and the leaves and the wind in her face.
Or for the first time, touch water in the wild at a place Emerson revisited in fall of 2022.
And as I was telling her that Jesus is her rock, she said, "Jesus, I want." And so we baptized her that day.
Beginning their Israel tour, Blackston and the others aiding Odom came upon an immediate challenge.
That first day we stepped off and there's this steep, deep cavern that you couldn't even see the bottom. Victoria wanted to go, so we tackled it.
Just to see that, I go, this is amazing, a God thing, and Victoria, wow, she's experiencing exactly what we are.
Masada was a really nice challenge as well.
Masada, the steep mountain where Jewish rebels made their stand against Roman legions almost 2,000 years ago.
It's relentlessly uphill for a long, long, long time.
It's up probably 500 or 600 feet in elevation, and they conquered it just amazingly.
It was incredible and will go down as one of the most amazing memories.
Talk about the uniqueness of this ministry. I don't think any other type of wheelchair apparatus ever made it up the Roman ramp there at Masada.
Other days, the group raced Odom and the Jolette like a chariot in a place real chariots once raced. And they took her on a pre-dawn hike with headlamps.
It just opened everything. I was like, I can do this. Everyone can do this.
Don't dismiss your dreams.
Now Delancey's ready to make dreams come true for others.
To offer trips to Israel on a regular basis with this amazing one-wheel wheelchair.
His ministry hopes to buy at least one Jolette and keep it in Israel for his tours and others. And he's already planning another trip with the help of Luke 5 Adventures for 2024. Schwieger, its founder, points out 99.99% of God's extraordinary creation is outside of where most severely disabled people can reach it.
And that's not acceptable.
Everyone should be able to do this.
And now they can get their chance.
The bottom line of Victoria's adventure here in the Holy Land is never tell yourself, no matter what shape you're in, that something's impossible for you. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Jerusalem.
Well, that's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Please remember to pray for the people of Turkey going through such an ordeal. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.